Steve Pape. I'm the director of the EDD program. This is Yolanda Abel, cohort lead, and this is from New York. And this is Kathy Chow, who is our program coordinator. And if you do come to our program, you will get to know her very, very well. You will get to know Yolanda very, very well, as well as myself. So one of the things I think is really important about our program is that while it's online, we really have a lot of support structures within the program to support students. Online programs are difficult. For students, they're difficult for folks to keep engaged sometimes. So we monitor really, really carefully. So when you aren't in a course logged in for 7 days, I get an email, Yolanda gets an email, and your advisor gets an email, and we check in. So there's a lot of we try to provide the support that's needed to keep folks going within the program. So, okay. So I'm going to provide a little bit of an overview, talk about the program objectives. I think we have a very unique program here, and our technology typically does work. I'm sorry. And I would also like to welcome those who are online. Go through some of the program requirements. One of the things, we are a very rigorous program. Some folks think when they're coming to an online program, it's going to be a correspondence course. That's not what we're talking about here. This is a doctoral program, and we really try to make that. We don't try to scare people. We try to make sure everybody understands the rigor of the program, while they also know where to reach out and get the support to be successful within the program. So I think that those are two really important pieces. And then we'll talk a little bit about the program format, as well as the admissions process. So as an overview, we created this program about 5 years ago. There is a movement called the Carnegie Project on the Ed Doctorate, and a lot of places are beginning to really think well about the differences between an EDD and a PhD. So we are really about thinking about the education landscape and providing students with the support to understand what we call problems of practice, understand issues that you have been dealing with within your educational organization, and then intervening in them if that is, wherever it is possible, depending upon the student's position within their educational organization. So you can read that. I don't need to go through all of that. Sorry?
Now the keyboard should work.
Okay, so as I said, we're really looking to support the development of educational leaders very broadly within the educational contexts to do something a little bit different. As educators, we all want to solve things, right? We all want to jump to that solution. My real bent within this program is that if we don't understand what the problem is, and we don't have the tools to truly understand the problem before we begin to provide solutions, we probably are throwing money at things. My pet peeve, being a mathematics educator and somebody who works in technology, is one-to-one computing in every classroom. So what problems have we created? How are we using them, and what are we using them to support learning for? And I think sometimes we put money into programs such as that we may not have thought about as well as we can. So we're really looking to improving the learning outcomes for both public and private environments as we meet the challenges that you all meet every single day. So the program requirements. The program is a minimum of 90 credits beyond the bachelor's, okay? So, but we require that you come in with a master's degree. And the master's degree does not have to be specific to education, okay? So we take the initial up to 36 credits are transferred automatically, leaving you 54 credits within the program. But you can also, if you have a second master's, a lot of folks come to us with a second master's or credits beyond that first master's, you can request transfer for 6 additional credits. So the minimum number of credits that you have to take within the program is 48. We do hold to that very, very staunchly, unfortunately. But the reason that we do it is that a lot of our dissertation components are situated within the courses. So as you go through the program, you are doing pieces of the dissertation all along so that you don't get to the end and end up ABD. If you know what the ABD rate is, it's about 50% of people who start doctoral programs end up ABD, all but dissertation, and not doctor. So we really try to prevent that by supporting you through the program to do the pieces of the dissertation. Certainly they are refined over all 3 years, but you begin them right from the beginning, okay? So the minimum of 48 credits. There's one core at this point, the Foundations of Education. It is 12 credits. It is Contemporary Approaches to Education is one of the courses. In that course, students, it's one of the first courses, students learn how to read the research, learn about improvement sciences, and also learn about an ecological systems approach. So when we talk about a problem of practice, we really want students to understand the problem both very broadly, out to society, down to the student, but we know you're not going to solve society's problems. That's not, I heard yesterday that someone was trying to change the state of Connecticut's policies on reading, and I said, wait, that's not where you can do, that's not a dissertation. So, but we want you to understand what the implications of the policies at the state level have on the problem that you are looking at. So, teacher attrition might be your problem of practice, let's say. So we understand that there are building, there are district, and there are, national as well as societal reasons that people leave the teaching profession. We want you to understand those very, very broadly, and Contemporary Approaches to Education provides you that context in terms of a systems, ecological systems approach to problems, to really understanding that landscape. Then the other course in that is Disciplinary Approaches to Education. So how do anthropologists, how do sociologists, how do historians and economists look at educational problems? How do they study them differently? Multicultural education is the third course within that segment. And then multiple perspectives on learning and teaching is the fourth course. And that's really a deep learning theories course, including adult learning. There are 9 credits of applied research and evaluation. So students begin CAE, Contemporary Approaches, is really another course that we think of as a research methods course because it supports students in terms of understanding variables, understanding constructs, understanding how to operationalize variables, and those sorts of things. But those courses really support students to look at the problem in the first year. So all students in the first year begin a needs assessment. So we're learning about the problem within the literature, and then we're looking at what we learned in the literature within our context of professional practice. And so we are trying to think about it with teacher attrition. Morale within a school might be one factor that's related to it. Well, I want to know, as the building principal, is morale an issue here? Is that where I should go for my intervention? Or maybe morale is not the issue in this context. So we learn from the literature what is related to that problem, and then right there in the first year you begin a small empirical study of your context. All right? In the second year, you look at interventions, and you look at evaluating interventions, evaluating programs that you might put in place in a school, a district, or an educational organization. And so we try to support students to look at these, this intervention through a mixed methods approach. So using both quantitative as well as qualitative approaches to understanding what the outcomes are of the intervention, but also perhaps what the folks in the organization feel about the intervention that you put in place. So as the CEO of a company, or as the principal in a building, you not only want to know what is the outcome in reading that occurred, but you want to know, how do the teachers take it up? How do your employees take it up in terms of a policy change within your organization? So really getting at the voice of the individual stakeholders within the organization to understand that problem. And then there's a specialization area. And the specialization areas for 2018, I hope I get them right, they're listed up there in a minute, but are the entrepreneurial leadership and education, the mind, brain, and teaching, and the urban leadership specializations. And then there's dissertation credit. I got it right. These are the three for this coming cohort, which most of you are here for. And as I said, how'd that happen? And as I said a moment ago, we're collecting data about the 2019 specializations. So we're asking you to fill out a poll if you're online, and Kathy's going to send that to you, or fill out a piece of paper if you're here. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to think about where we should go with the next specializations. So we change specializations every year. Not completely. Entrepreneurial leadership and education and mind, brain, and teaching are two that typically occur every single year. And then we change out, we have technology integration, which is K-16 focused. So how do we use technology effectively for learning? But we also have another strand, which is instructional design. And so that's one that has been very popular, and that probably will run in 2019. So we do change them. We will list the 2019 specializations on our website fairly soon. We're being asked to do that, and applications will start to be accepted June of 2018. But I don't think that that's exactly why you're here. So the poll went out, and now I can't change my... Okay. So what are the benchmarks? Certainly successful completion of all coursework. And as I said, this is a rigorous program. So most of our courses are created to have 2-week sessions. So the first week is about the reading, and the second week is about the interaction, broadly. That's not the case in every single context, every single course. Some are 1 week at a time. But we try for the working professional to provide you a space of a week so you get into some kind of a rhythm of, this is my reading week, and then this is my work week. This is my reading week, this is my work week. I have had folks really think that it's a correspondence class. And I mean, I do my reading and I'll see at the end of the semester. That's not what this is about. It is probably 15 to 20 hours per week per course. 2 courses a semester. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but I'd rather put that at the high end than at the low end. All right, so one of the things that I think is really important for us is we don't want to bring folks in who are not going to be successful. We want to be honest with you about the work that's going to occur so that you understand that and you are successful. All right. There are comprehensive assessments, and so those comprehensive assessments are every year. So in the first year, you have a year 1 paper, which becomes, it's not complete, but it becomes chapters 1 and 2 of your dissertation. Chapter 1 being, what does the literature say about the problem? Chapter 2 being, what did I learn from my context? All right? So after the year 1, there's a self-assessment of what you're learning, as well as the year 1 paper as the first comprehensive assessment. It's not, but it's not an examination. After the second year, you have your proposal. So that would be chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. But to add to the year 1 paper, chapter 3 is the literature review around interventions. Now that I understand the problem and I understand it within my context, what is appropriate as an intervention for me as the principal, or what is appropriate for me as a teacher or as the CEO of a company? It's going to depend upon the position, but also what you learned about the context. So at the end of year 2, there's the proposal, which is 4 chapters of the dissertation, plus a comprehensive examination. All right? And the comprehensive examination covers all of the year 1 and year 2 work, and it is oral. We feel that as a practitioner scholar, you are, it is important for you to be able to speak about the knowledge that you've gained as you articulate and argue for positions within your position as a leader in education. So that's why we have it as oral. And then there's the applied dissertation after the third year with an oral defense of that as well. All right. I keep saying 3 years. I will say that we are providing for more flexibility in the program now. So some students are doing the first year over 2 years because they want to ease themselves into this thing. If you haven't been in school for a little while, and we do have folks who are more advanced within their careers, those are the people that we want to have in the program. So maybe you haven't been in school as you know, in a long time, and so some people want to do that, or some people have not been able to make changes in their life in order to be able to jump into 2 courses at a time and want to slow down a little bit. We also allow for more time at the end to finish the dissertation. So you work on that with your advisor and me, the cohort lead, and figure out what works for you. But we say it's a 3-year program. Now I will say, if you are looking for federal financial aid, that you cannot take the longer program. You must have 4.5 credits to be able to get federal financial aid. So that hurts some folks. And other folks who, this is something new I just learned, which I probably should have known, but some folks who have taken federal financial aid and then go down to 3 credits later go into repayment immediately. So there's issues around going a longer period of time, but we can work those out with you. But typically it's a 3-year program. Each of the projects is typically completed during the summers. So the summers are heavy load every single summer. After the first year of courses, you have the year 1 paper. After the second year of courses, you have your comprehensive exams plus the proposal. And then after the third, we hope you're defending your dissertation. And folks are doing it, and folks are taking other timelines, 4 years or 5 years. Okay, we talked about that. So the applied dissertation is really the culminating project, and it is a 5 to 6 chapter dissertation, depending upon what you decide with your advisor. It is taken up across the courses every single year. So you have instructor as well as advisor feedback on that project. We have it set up so that when you get feedback in the fall, you actually submit that to your spring instructor with the feedback on it so that the instructor understands what you've been told by your previous instructors. Your advisor also understands what the instructors are telling you. So we try to bring coherence to the program through connecting all the feedback as you go through the program. The projects are embedded within the coursework. So by the end of the first year, you have your methodology and research methods 1 for that needs assessment study that I spoke about a few minutes ago. And you have chapter 1, which is a lit review that you do within multiple perspectives on learning and teaching course. So the course assignments both support your learning of the course, but also support the dissertation components. It is focused on a problem of practice. So I want to be very clear that a problem of practice in our perspective is not to understand the impact of a new reading program. That's not a problem. So folks often come to us with an already defined intervention that they want to evaluate. We really want to push the educational practitioner back from that and say, what is the problem and what is an appropriate intervention for that problem, and based on your context. So a lot of folks have come to us with a problem that their company wants to solve. So we had an NCAA student who really wanted, and he was the head of the eligibility arm, and that the issue around eligibility moving from high school to college is a huge problem. And so that's the problem that he tried to solve using using growth mindset types of interventions. So those are the kinds of problems that we really want you to come with. So achievement gap within a school, teacher attrition within a school are definitely problems of practice. And so we want you to be open to the problem, open to understanding the problem first, and then move to the intervention. And certainly we want significant change within your context of professional practice. Here are some of the previous dissertation studies that I will not read. But we have actually had one winner, the first winner of the dissertation in practice from the Carnegie Project. The gentleman who is doing this dissertation, which is an app, a mobile app that provides students in Brazil with phonics awareness. And he's trying to really have an impact on illiteracy within the country of Brazil. He was just named First, say it again?
NYU's First Look program?
Right, NYU's First Look program. We also have a woman who was just got into a program in the UK that supports scholars, young scholars. So we're really excited about some of those things. So we have down to kind of a classroom intervention to a national intervention. This was a retrospective study looking at what are the characteristics of business education partnerships that endure. It was a fabulous one. This did not align with our applied dissertation. It was not an intervention. If you're going to look at business and education partnerships, you can't set some up to fail and then see why, right? So he actually went back and did a retrospective study of those relationships and how they were built and how they survived, how they endured over, I think it was 15 years. This is a program over in our medical school where one of our students works with young adults who are non-adherent with their medication, who are HIV and AIDS, HIV infected or have AIDS. And so he did a whole intervention study around supporting those individuals to take their medications, in particular young adults. And so that was really quite exciting. And then we have a woman who's working in the UAE on example-based learning. So one of the really exciting things I think about our program are the students that come to us. They're international. They're all over the world, doing some really interesting work. Two that we have lost came from Iraq, who were working on girls' education, and we lost them because of connectivity. And that really bothered me to have lost them because they are working on such important things. We have a gentleman in our program who is from the UN and is running the education arm in a part of Africa for the UN. I mean, what exciting work that he's doing. And he's, these are the people that you would be speaking to. And that I think is really, really exciting and important about our program. So those are some of the previous dissertation studies. One of the things that is very, very important to understand, everybody, if you are admitted to the program and you are coming, you start in June. I want to say that loud and clear. There is a self-paced online orientation. It actually is, unfortunately, the one place that I am very stringent about. This is a good weeding out process, because the folks who don't finish the orientation have not made the commitment, and I don't want to take their money. So this is free, this is, get it done. It's June and July, it's a lot of work, but it's self-paced. But honestly, the folks who have not been able to do it have not been successful. So I'm okay with that being because I don't weed people out. That's not what we're here about. We're here to support once you start the program. But at this point, it's a good thing to just kind of think to yourself, am I ready for this? And so that's one of the first things. So this has not been as clear to folks. And I know there's questions popping up, and we'll get to questions in a few moments. There's also a face-to-face orientation, which is very important. It is late July. I think it's going to be the last week of July this coming summer. It provides you the opportunity to meet others. And so you're not just online. I think it's very, very important. We didn't do the first year, and I think that folks really missed it. But you can also do that electronically from a distance. You can view the sessions, so you get the information at least. You get to meet the faculty. It's very important if you are going to come to the program that you can come to those 3 days. And then there's a residency each year. So in the first year, the orientation is about onboarding you into the program. The second year is to get you set up for what's coming in that second year. And the third, so we really focus the residency on supporting you for the next year that you are going to be participating in the program. Long list of admissions requirements. I'm not gonna, they're all on our website, right? So the thing that is very important is the 3 letters of recommendation. One of them says very specifically on the website, from somebody in your organization who says they understand you're doing this and is going to provide your support. All right? So you need to have a conversation with somebody in your organization who has the authority to provide your support. That's another way that we have tried to be supportive of students, because if they come to the program and they are not able to do their dissertation within their context of professional practice, then it's a harder lift for them. They have to go outside of their organization, they are working all day long, they are taking classes, and then they have to go find another site. That's not the ideal way to do it. It is possible, it happens. People leave jobs and have to kind of morph their dissertation. We work with all of that. But I think it's very important, and we look at that letter very, very carefully. Is there somebody who has some kind of supervisory authority within your organization that says, I've sat with this person, I know they can do it, and I want to provide them support, all right? So we want support from both us, but also from your context of professional practice. The other one that's very, very important is the statement of the problem of practice. So on the web, there's a couple of questions. Every year, we get a personal statement of who you are and what you've done all your life. Sorry, we'll look at your resume, we don't care. We do care, I swear to you we care. But that's not gonna get you into the program. There are specific questions on for this statement, so we don't call it a personal statement, at least I don't. It may be on the web saying personal statement, because that's just what everybody thinks of. It doesn't say that?
No,
Good.
Sorry?
It
says problem with problem.
Okay, so, oh yeah, I know it does that, but what we actually call it, on the web, I'm not positive, it could be a personal statement, but it's not the typical personal statement, all right? It is really, what is your problem? Have you thought about a problem? Have you thought about the solutions? Have you thought about what factors might be related to it? So can you speak about the problem well within your application? International students must complete additional requirements, and they're on the web, but also they're on the next slide. But the other thing that's very important is this interview. And so when you complete your application, you are sent a link by an organization called Kira Talent, and it is a 2 or 3 question. 2 or 3 question. Sorry about that. I don't know why that's Kathy. The interview is 3 questions and then the writing, or it's 2 questions. Okay, so it's 2 oral questions, and so you sit in front of your computer, and our faculty have taped the questions, and then you record your response to the question. The third question is written, and so you actually have to sit and type for a length of time. Let me say this very carefully. We had problems with the written component a while back, and so this system watches the number of characters per second, or characters per minute, or whatever it is, I don't know exactly. So you do not copy and paste. If we get something that says 450 words per minute, we will know that it's been copy and pasted. This has to be typed out, and you are told that. So we really want to see your writing. A lot of the program is discussion boards and those sorts of things. Writing is an important thing. It does not have to be perfect, so don't let this get you crazy. But we want to see your natural writing in and of itself. So that's a new component this year. You're sent a link when you're finished with the application, and this should have been gone. Sorry about that, we'll go. Here are the deadlines. So December 31st is when this year is when the complete online application has to be finished. Okay, so that's the initial piece. All of your documentation must be in by January 15th. But please don't start an application on the 30th, get that first piece in, you will not have your transcripts, etc. in by January 15th, okay? So the 31st is really the deadline, and then we give you 2 more weeks to get it finished, get your transcripts in, get your letters in, and those sorts of things. And March 15th is when students will be notified. It's also the date that the SOE scholarship applications will be due. And so you should apply for those scholarships. And then you have until May 1st to say whether you're coming or not. And it's a $500 deposit May 1st that's non-refundable. Okay, so these are the important dates. I would just hold December 31st as the date. International students, I'm going to put this up real quickly, and there's the Office of Admissions. So that's my spiel. Now we have questions. That wasn't so bad, right? That was good. That's all right. It was a quick overview. Questions, sir?
Yes, Dr. Page. I just to clarify, if you're applying for scholarships, you have to do the FAFSA.
Yes. That is correct. You must do the FAFSA, yes. One second. Yes. So in order to do the scholarship, you have to do the FAFSA, yes. Kathy, do you have a question from our audience?
So, let's say we posit a problem/intervention statement or application statement. Once and if we're accepted, will we have the time and opportunity to change our minds?
Yeah. So so the question is, can you change your problem of practice during the program? Absolutely. They morph, they change. I want you to settle down on that by January of the first year. If you don't, you may be pushing things back, and that's okay. We can work with that also. But I think it's very important by that first January to really have your problem situated. But that's a great question. Yes, problems of practice change all the time. Hopefully not too drastically, and especially hopefully not too drastically after the first year. That's where once you've started that's kind of a downside of starting the dissertation right away. But the upside is that we know the ABD rate nationally, and we don't want to have a lot of all but dissertations. Once you get started, what I'm hoping is that you're so into your dissertation by year 3 that you're not going to give up on it. You're going to get it done. You know, I mean, that's the real thing. If you know PhD programs, a lot of PhD programs, you take coursework, or doctoral programs, you take coursework, and at the end of them you take your comprehensive exams, and then you start your dissertation. Now, over the coursework, if you and your advisor have been smart about it, excuse me, you will have done some pieces toward the dissertation. We are just more intentional about making certain that while they are not finished, chapter 1 and 2 have been begun by the end of the first year. Chapter 3 and 4 have been begun, so there's still always work, but there, it's less probable that you would be ABD. Kate, you were going to ask a question.
So in terms of the statement for the problem of practice, I have seen in, I come for the Department of Education, New York City Department of Education, and I've seen in my school that we have posted a short statement which we've called the problem of practice. So I'm wondering in terms about the length and the detail into which we should go as we write this statement.
So it's 750 words, I believe?
So
Sure.
try to be as concise as possible.
Yeah, and you have to answer the 4 questions.
Right.
So really focus on the problem.
Okay.
Yes, it is appropriate for you to have some literature within that statement. That's okay. We want to see that you have looked at the problem beforehand. So, you know, if you cite things, that's okay. I've been asked that question a number of times. Somebody over here.
Yes, earlier you mentioned that the fall 2019, the specializations may change.
Yes.
What if you apply and then once the specializations are posted on the website, you decide that those areas are more conducive to what you want to do?
No. So there's two ways around that one. The first is slow down for the first year. And don't wait for that special, you know, so you would do the first year in 2 years, right? And then pick up the specialization with that new group. That's one way.
Okay.
There is an application process within the program to switch specializations. Not rigorous, you just have to give me a new POP and the faculty within that specialization have to approve it,
Okay.
all right? You cannot defer. That's the answer to your question more so, I think. Once you have applied and you have to say whether you're coming or not, we do not allow deferrals to the following year. If you do not come, you have to reapply. So you could come, you could take 2 years to do it and then start the specialization with the new group, but you cannot defer. Okay? Yes, sir.
I have two questions. I'll be completing another doctoral degree in 8 months. Would I be qualified? And that is completely not education related.
Yes, you would be. We actually have some folks like you we have actually a gentleman in our program right now who has an MD, an MPH, an MBA, and now he's doing an EDD. And his area, which I think is, yeah, I know. We'll you're right. We'll let that go. I hope he doesn't. I hope he's not watching. But you know, his work is as a medical doctor, a medical educator, which I think is wonderful. We have, you know, he is looking at simulations. We've had actually two people. A woman who did. She was a nurse anesthetist, who looked at, and she was a nurse anesthetist educator, so she looked at simulations within her program down at Emory and the impact of simulations. We have a faculty member who now works with us who had a PhD in policy and political science, I believe. I could be wrong. And then she started her EDD. So folks do have doctorates who come to us. We have actually like 3 or 4 medical doctors who are in our program. Very interesting folks. What will your doctorate be in?
Dental surgery.
Sorry?
Sorry, dental surgery.
Dental surgery. See, there you go. So folks who, that's an interesting field that is coming up nowadays, is medical education, because I think folks are understanding that perhaps we need to change some of our medical education practices and be more supportive and, you know, so yeah, we would welcome you. Sir?
Dr. Could you talk a little bit more about the entrepreneurial education program and I guess really what is it with a problem area practice that entrepreneurial can address in education? So I'm trying to just make sure I understand specifically what that degree is all about.
So I think business education partnerships could be one, right? So we know that they fail quite frequently, or they may not have an impact as we wish they would be. So how do you, as somebody who is working, let's say, in a funding agency, support business education partnerships? So some of the courses in that sequence are entrepreneurship, strategic partnerships, talent management. You know, so how do we support the growth of our talent within our organization? And I'm blanking on the fourth one. Sorry about that. So those are some of the types of things. Folks who come into that are folks who run businesses or who want to open up a charter school and those sorts of things. So those are some of the folks that come into that specialization. Do you have any other ideas around a problem of practice in the ELE?
I think to some extent it is not necessarily so much about problem practice per se,
but as you are working through it and thinking about the potential intervention, is it something quote unquote saleable that you can turn into
Right.
a nonprofit or to a product that then would benefit schools, nonprofits, and other types of agencies that have an educational bent?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, can I ask
You
a
had a
clarifying
question back here.
Okay.
For a long time.
For a long time, hold on.
I have a clarifying question on that.
Just, all right, 1 second, and we're going to get a clarifying question, but I also want to go to the audience too. The other audience, sorry.
So the clarifying question is, so are we saying that for the entrepreneurial, the problem, that essentially we're going to be looking, as part of our dissertation, we'll be looking both at a particular problem or practice, but possibly like looking for entrepreneurial solutions
Yes.
Yes.
to that? Is that,
Yes.
that's what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, so the question was, are we looking for entrepreneurial solutions to a problem? Absolutely, yes. So some folks who have been in that specialization, the ELE specialization, have been principals who are looking to be more entrepreneurial in their work as a school leader. All right, so that's a possibility. So it could be the business. I actually have to say sometimes that's the specialization that has more of a diversity of folks in that specialization because they could come from the K-12. Some folks who do that are from the higher ed area. And then some folks are from ed industry more broadly. So I know that I believe the state superintendent of Louisiana is in that specialization right now. And if you can think about that, he's looking at, you know, how do I build these networks within a whole state? So it's not instruction. Now the mind-brain teaching, I see more people who are K-12 or K-16, but are more focused on instructional types of interventions, so more classroom types of things. Ma'am.
Just a quick question, I think, a timely question on admissions is, and excuse my voice, I apologize. The interview with the faculty, is that folded into part of the online application, or is that a secondary element?
It's a
after that?
secondary, so
Okay.
so the question was about the Kira interview, and that is something that comes after you've completed your application.
Okay.
So-
I know you had mentioned that we get a link upon completion of
Yes.
the application, or are we in a holding pattern prior to receiving that link, or is it a, here's my address for the link?
Oh, the link, yeah, it comes right away.
And then what's the timeline for completion on that link? So thinking
Um,
about blocking out time for finishing.
We want
the
it within 2
application?
weeks,
Okay, great.
right? Isn't that, we're saying 15 days? More like a month, okay. 2 weeks. A question from the audience, and then Jenna, I will
We
come.
have several questions.
Sorry?
Several
questions, okay.
So the first one is, on the application requirements, it is stated that one letter of rec must come from a university professor from a master's program. So if it's been a while since that program,
Yeah.
can a person get 3 recs from a supervisor?
Yeah, so the question is whether or not the 3 letters of recommendation, one of them says that it has to come from a faculty member in the master's. That's the one that we understand if you are more advanced in your career and you haven't done your master's in 15 years, it might be harder to get. So that's one that I don't think is as stringently looked at, if you will. The one that is most stringently looked at as if it's not there, it's not a good thing, is the one from your organization. All right, but I would say that we definitely have people who come through who, you know, can't get something from a master's, but we want you to have somebody who can say you can do this. Another question from the
Can you
online.
discuss the differences between an EDD versus a PhD program?
Okay, so the differences between an EDD and a PhD. It's not the rigor, right? So that's one thing. It's not the rigor. They both have a dissertation. The nature of the dissertation definitely is different. Okay, so a lot of times in an EDD, you're talking about an applied dissertation. And so we're looking at folks who are leaders in their educational organization already, who want to do something within their organization, an applied dissertation, to make change, to make something ameliorate some problem. okay? The goals are somewhat different. So we in the EDD are really working with the practitioner who we are supporting to look at problems and interventions in a more systematic way and to continue to be that practitioner. All right, so we are not necessarily training folks to go into higher education. Now, some of our students certainly either are already in higher education, they are faculty members within community colleges, they are faculty members within smaller universities. One of my advisees is an associate professor with a master's degree at Stevenson University here in the Baltimore area. And so this doctorate has allowed her to progress within her own work at the university. So we certainly, it does not preclude going into higher education, but it is not the main intent of an EDD. For us, the EDD, its distinguishing factor is that it's about practitioner scholar, folks who really want to do their job and advance in their job, better or similar positions. So the woman that I said before was the nurse anesthetist. She's now running the education and research division at Purdue University from Emory. She's moved, so it doesn't preclude, that, but it's not really the focus of where we are trying to train students to be. Sir.
Yes, I have 3 questions. I don't know. Do you want me to give you to ask
Probably
one at a
because
time?
I have a short memory, yes.
Okay, good. Good. Let's start with the EDD and the PhD comparison. So let's say if I were to complete my EDD and then I later on want to do my PhD, what would be the requirements? What would be exactly
Here?
Here, right?
Yeah.
How many credits?
It's a completely different program. It would be you'd have to be accepted to the PhD and you'd have to start all over.
Even though it's
Yes.
the same
Yes,
field?
it's not the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would have to reapply to the PhD program.
Okay. My second question, let's talk about advisors. I know the program has paid specialization. So how flexible are you in terms of letting students choose the people they work with? For example, an applicant, if I get in, do you assign,
No.
you give me an advisor or do I
Right.
get to?
So the question is around the advisor and how that is done, and that's a great question. Let me answer that. So you all come in with the initial advisor, Dr. Yolanda Abel. Everybody will come in 2018 with Dr. Yolanda Abel as their advisor. It used to be me. I'm very excited. We have a whole new structure for our administration, and I'm very excited about it. It takes a little bit off of me. It takes a lot off of me. So Yolanda Abel will be your advisor, but only for 6 months. Okay, so during that first year, yesterday I just had a meeting with the cohort lead for the 2017 cohort, and she is beginning the process of advisor selection. So we take your problem of practice, we look at the faculty, and we try to think, first off, who has room in their docket for the dance. That's going to be important because we do not want faculty taking more students if, it's just a bandwidth type issue. So sometimes the person that you want is already full of advisees, and that can become a problem. We allow you to make a suggestion if you know somebody or you've looked at the web and within the School of Education you find somebody whose research is really aligned or before or any of those things, you can suggest. What we do is we look at the problem and we then speak to that advisor and say, is this somebody who you might want to have a conversation with? And then if they agree, then we send you an email and say, Dr. Yolanda Abel has agreed to an initial conversation. That's all it is. And once you have an initial conversation, you see whether or not, and we have all sorts of kind of questions for you that you can ask the advisor about the way they work, the way you work, those sorts of things. Because you're not on campus, we have to facilitate it, right? So in a typical program where you're on campus, you're meeting a lot of faculty and you make a relationship and you say, you know, would you be my advisor? We have to kind of do some of the matchmaking, all right? But it is your choice and it's the faculty member's choice. We do not assign an advisor at all. And during the program, if that relationship, and it is a relationship, does not work out, then you come back to Dr. Yolanda Abel or me, and we work out a different advisor, you know. And so, but it's not because my advisor's telling me hard things to do and I don't want to do them. Because that happens. It is because of the expertise or a work style, you know, difference. I mean, those things are real and that's fine, but it is really about, I found somebody else who I think can support my work better, not they're telling me to do more work and I don't want to do it. So we've gotten that.
Okay.
The third question.
Third question.
And that's the end.
Yeah, almost the end. So, my third question is about your platform. It's an online
Blackboard.
program. How engaging is it, and what platform do you use?
Blackboard.
Blackboard. Yeah.
So we have continually upgraded. So I don't think the platform is engaging at all. It's what you do with the platform.
Yeah.
Right? So there are some courses that are still 15 weeks of discussion board, but we have done not only our own research and brought together research around, I talk about it in terms of how do you get students to really chew on the content. So there's group work, for sure. There's casework in some of the courses. So applying the reading to the cases rather than just answering a discussion post. There are research study analyses. So we try to vary it, and we work every year to vary it even further. I'm not going to promise that it's going to be stimulating every single week, but it's certainly, we are working toward that every single year. Every time a course comes up, faculty revise it. And so, you know, they keep making changes. Last question. No? You're really
no,
done?
that's fine.
Oh, that was done. All right. Ma'am in the back. And then we're going to go back to the online space.
Related to the advisor matching, is there a committee that's formed, or
Yes.
do we have the opportunity to ask people outside of the?
Yes.
On
So we
certain-
require two. So for the doctoral advisory committee, it's a 3-member committee. 2 members are JHU SOE faculty, and 1 may be an external or an internal. That might change at the university level. If they change their requirements, we will have to change ours. I just found that out recently. But there's no real, there's just talk about change. But so that can change anytime. But at present, 3-member committee, 2 JHU faculty, plus a 3rd one that can be an outside or inside. We are also talking to students about who they choose as a 3rd level, because if it is their supervisor, they have to be in an assessment role of you, and you want to think about that as well. We have had an incident where the comprehensive exam was failed, and somebody's supervisor, you know, we have to think about that, and you have to think about your relationship with your organization and your supervisor and those sorts of things. So we're just trying to we're not stopping it, but we're just making sure that folks understand the implications of who they choose as their outside person. Okay, one question from the virtual.
There's 2 similar questions. So the first one is, if a person were to specialize in ELE, can he or she still take MBT courses as electives?
Okay, so we do allow electives now, and some of the specialization courses could be, oh, I apologize. The question was, if you are in one specialization, can you take courses within another specialization? So We do allow for some electives. Specifically in the third year, there are 2 electives that could be the MBT specialization courses. We have fewer students doing that. There are other electives that are also interesting to them, and they came into a specialization because they wanted that specialization. Okay, sir.
For people who are relatively nearby, are there any restrictions on in-person faculty
No.
access?
No. If you are nearby or you come in, I mean, one of my students comes in from New York on a monthly basis because that's his preference, and he, you know, prefers to take the train down and spend that money to come in to see me rather than do it online. That is absolutely possible, yes. Just the bandwidth of the person you're coming to see, if they can do it. Another question from virtual.
So with regard to the MBT program, is it possible to take additional courses as electives outside the School of Education, such as additional neuroscience-based courses?
So that's less clear, and we would have to work on. So the question was, can you take courses outside of the SOE? That's not something that we've done before, but that might be done on a case-by-case basis, and that would only be for the electives. Any more, Kathy?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Statistics. If you haven't taken a statistics course in your undergraduate or your master's, is there, I thought I read something about a module to be completed before, when would that?
So the question is about statistics. That's in the orientation, except for that we've kind of taken it out of the orientation. So I'd love for you to send me where that's still being said on the web because I missed something. So prior to this year, we had a whole set of statistic modules that are still available to students, but they were required to do the statistics modules, and we found that they were not as effective as we wished. So we've actually moved that material into the courses more explicitly. All right? Now, if you've never taken an intro to research or an intro to stat course, and you are going to do this, and in particular, if you don't have 36 credits at the master's level, I strongly suggest that you take a course at the master's level in an intro to statistics or intro to research course. All right?
That was my next question about because my master's is 30.
Right. So if your master's is below 36 credits, then you can either take 2 additional courses within the doctoral program, probably lengthening it beyond the 3 years, because I don't think that you would, we don't want people taking 3 courses in a semester while they're working full-time, right? So you can do that, or you can take it next spring, you know, if you feel confident. You know, it's up to you. You could take it next summer. And I would strongly suggest, if you don't have the 36 credits in your master's, that you take an intro to stat or an intro to research methods course. Both of those would be really helpful. Okay, ma'am and sir?
So just to piggyback off of that last question, so say I've taken a statistics course, but at the undergrad level, and just so I've always known that in deciding to pursue a doctorate, that I would need to strengthen my statistics base. But if I'm accepted to a program, I'm in orientation from June to July. The orientation is not precluding the start of classes. Is that what you're saying? So we have time to.
So thank you for that question. What I meant by that summer, it would be outside of us. You could take and then transfer it in.
Okay.
That's what I mean, is take a course. Now, you may take one of our intro, like in the counseling program, or in our MEHP, which is the Master of Education in Health Professions. They have research courses that you could possibly get into prior to coming to our program. If you were accepted into our program, we would have to work that out. But I was actually suggesting doing a course, you know, at a local school, you know.
Right, but in terms of like the timeline, right? Corey, you said the orientation is from June to July, so we'd be in courses during that time, or is it just like
no, the orientation is modules. They're self-paced. They're no credit. They're no cost.
Okay.
You're doing them at your own pace. So Yeah, now I'm throwing another course on top of it. I think we have not, the reason I'm emphasizing that is that we have not been as clear in our materials to prospective students that this is something that must be done, and it is time, it's time. So I'm putting it out there so that you know if you're accepted and you say you're coming May 1st, that by June 1st you will be doing something. Again, self-paced, reading. We have a really, I think, again, it's the beginning of the support we provide. There's intro to research modules. There's library modules. How do you search our library? How do you use our library? So they're very important. There's APA formatting and those sorts of modules. Trying to think of what else am I missing. What am I missing, Kathy? You didn't hear what I said. Yeah, that's okay. So there's the preliminary onboarding type stuff. They have to be done by July because they are taken up within the face-to-face orientation at the end of July. All right, sir.
How many people are in the average instance of a course with whom you would collaborate?
Okay, we try to keep courses at 15 max. So about 15. We have a couple this semester that's 17, and we have some of the specialization courses that are 10.
In an online manner, though, do you find that capping a max is not necessarily the best thing? Like more might be better in an online environment? Or no?
No, it's bandwidth. No, it's called faculty bandwidth.
Okay.
Yeah, the faculty can't keep up, and every single course has a teaching assistant. So you actually have 2 people working. Well, I shouldn't say every single. As the majority of the courses have a teaching assistant. So somebody who's more advanced in the program, they're really amazing because I'm gonna toot our own horn. You know that the program is good when students want to come back and work as TAs even afterwards, and are working collaboratively with each other to make it better. You know what to help each. So they are on their own now, meeting once a month as TAs to talk about what they're doing in the courses. I think that's wonderful. That I think is a sign of health of the program.
So are lots of the courses designed to support collaboration between the participants?
Yes, the courses are definitely designed around collaborative work a lot, yes. Yeah. And now that gets hard with all of the time zones that we deal with, and we have to, so it works out. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. We're all in education, we know that, and we work it out, right? We figure it out. Yes, ma'am.
Is it helpful to sort of mention any of the NIH type certificates that you've received over the thesis process?
Get them in your resume.
Trainings? Okay.
Not the personal statement, though, or not the statement, because it's not going to have the space for the statement. Keep that real clear. But you're certainly the resume. Get them on there because we look through the resumes. Absolutely. We do want folks who have had that experience. And that's any kind of awards and NIH work or other grant work within your organization. Absolutely important. Ma'am.
Just to clarify, the average cohort size for each specialization
is 15 to 20 students.
Okay.
Virtual question?
Any recommendations on how to get on the guest list when you apply? Like what can improve your chances of acceptance?
So recommendations for getting into the program. So your GPA at the master's level is going to be important, right? But we don't take it as a sole thing. Again, we are working with practitioners who have been in their fields for a while. Some folks come to us from years ago with a 3.0, and they are, the CEO of a company. I mean, we really look holistically. I will make that statement very clearly. 2.75 or below is probably not going to be acceptable. And we also have about 400 applications a year. So it is highly competitive. So I will say that, okay? So GPA is important. That letter, the 3 letters of recommendation are very important within your application. In particular, the one that I keep mentioning from somebody in your organization that you have spoken to, that they can say in that letter, we've spoken, I know what she's going to work on, or potentially work on, because I don't want you to think that you're held to that. You know, I am going to be able to be supportive of this individual. We have the first semester, you have to submit an executive sponsor agreement. And what the executive sponsor is somebody, that same person hopefully, who signs on and says, I will help in these ways. All right? I mean, we really want the support to come from True Directions. That letter, and then the problem of practice statement. Can you identify a problem that is not an intervention? That's the big mistake. That's the one mistake. Is, you know, I'm going to evaluate a program that's already in the school. I'm going to evaluate something that I'm already doing in my company. That's not a problem of practice for us. I get that it could be construed that way, but for us, that's not the definition that we hold. Can you identify a problem? Have you thought about the problem well? And Kathy, can you go on the web real quickly and just get those 4 things in the admissions? There's 4 questions within the admissions. Do you know them right there? Can I look at this?
Is this my problem of
This
practice?
is all right. Describe a significant problem of practice. Indicate the importance of the problem. All right. Discuss the potential underlying causes for or contributing factors related to the problem. So what have you really examined your context and can speak to it? And then, really important, is how does that problem fit within the specialization that you are applying to? All right, so you have to make a statement about why you believe your work will fit within that specialization. The fit is going to be one of the things that are important. I think we're past time, right? Is it 11:30? Oh, okay. Any last questions? And I'll stay around to answer, you know, individual questions. From Kathy, from the...
How can we expect to apply for scholarships before we know whether we are accepted into the program?
I don't see that as a problem. So the question is, how are we expected to apply for a scholarship if we're not? I would apply. It's a very brief application. If you don't apply, you're not going to get the money. I'm not sure how to answer that. I don't think that there's,
It's in your best interest. If you choose not to come, no
Yeah,
harm done.
no harm done.
But if you are coming, that's our deadline, beat it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very quick, it's a 1-page application. It's not a big deal. I would submit it, get it in there. And those scholarships are more about needs-based. So really think well about why you know, there is a need for that money. I bought a new home last year is not a need. I mean, it certainly is a need, but I get it, but I'm sorry that's not gonna put you over the line, I don't think. So be careful about, you know, what the need is, and write that well. Okay, so thank you very, very much for coming. I will stay. I will answer any other questions. Certainly the folks who are virtually can email questions as well.